Morena whānau, ko Trevor Mills ahau, tiri reini te maunga, Tairāwhiti te awa, Ngāti Pākehā te iwi, Makauri te hapu, that's out on the Poverty Bay Flats, okay. And I'd just like to thank Mum for giving me this spot to talk about something I've never talked in public about, and that is bananas. Holy hell. I can see the reactions from the audience going, Jesus. Bananas, okay. Now, just to put everything into perspective as far as bananas are concerned, they're the fourth most important food in the world. We have rice, wheat and corn, and bananas is fourth on the list. So we're talking about something which really, if you look at it seriously, is very important. Now people ask me, how the hell did you get into this rural economic development stuff? Well, going back to the late 90s, I was manager of the Mature Employment Support Agency here in Gisborne, which was funded by the Community Employment Group. And things weren't looking good as far as funding was concerned to continue the agency. Community Employment Group, SEG, KEG, or whatever else they called themselves, we had Parikura Horomea as number 1, Meka Whaitiri as number 2, and John Bashara as number 3. So we had to be nice to them to keep the funding up. So Pierre Henari, one of the field workers up at Tairāwhiti, came to me and said, well, we're looking at doing a rural economic development report on the potential of the western side of the Gisborne District Council area, which was from Bartlett's in the south right up to Motu in the north, looking at enterprise analysis and employment needs. So after a few months I came up with this big report, and everything looked good. So I continued my interest in rural economic development here in Tairāwhiti. At the moment I'm Program Manager for Tairāwhiti Limited, a limited liability company based with the Tinahu whānau out at Manatuki. Laurie had been associated with me in the report that I've just spoken about in regards to looking at the Manatuki community, for example, and what could be done to increase employment opportunities, alternative land use, all that sort of stuff. He rang me up and said, hey, we've just formed Tairāwhiti Limited and we're going to grow hemp. And I said, oh, yeah, okay. So it was a pretty compressed time of learning all about hemp, and what hemp was all about, and what licenses you had to get, and what bureaucratic processes you had to go through with the Ministry of Health, and you know, pretty heavy stuff. Especially when Laurie said, oh, you've got to let the police know where our hemp is, because if they think it's the other stuff, they're going to spray it, and it'll all go. So, and then they said, oh, we're going to have to do a police check on you, Trevor. Oh, yeah, okay. And Trevor, don't you bring any of your whānau into the hemp plot because their names are not on the licence. So, never mind. I thought I'd try and convince Laurie then to looking at growing tropical fruits, which was a lot safer. And I didn't have to go to a police check, and I didn't have to worry about helicopters circling above, you know. So we had looked at tropical fruits as a possibility with the report that we did for the Community Employment Group. And the easiest one we decided or agreed to was that would be growing bananas. But then the idea came of establishing a demonstration farm where we would, as a result of our long-held belief that Tairāwhiti had an ideal climate to grow tropical fruits, including bananas, thanks, as far as bananas were concerned, to the 40 years of research and dedication of the local banana guru, Roger Bodle, who over that period proved beyond doubt that bananas could grow here. Poor old Roger, he started off growing bananas in his backyard at Wainui Beach. So he wrote to the Ministry of Agriculture here in Gisborne and said, hey, give me some money to research this and we can start growing bananas. Well, he got a letter back from a senior advisor who's still living, I think, here in Gisborne, and said, nah, no way, bro, the climate, you'll never grow bananas in Gisborne. And here's Roger with a whole backyard full of bananas. Bureaucracy, you see. But anyway, what really got us going was, and a recent catalyst as far as banana growing was concerned, was the Orchardist magazine in May 2017, which had a major article entitled "Time for a Kiwi Banana Industry," in which disclosed that a group of Northland growers had really got into the mahi and were producing bananas which were thriving, fruiting well, and they were selling them at farmers markets right throughout the Northland area, and they were selling all that they could produce. So as a result of that article, we contacted the Northland growers. They had formed a organisation called Tropical Fruit Growers of New Zealand, and they were most pleased to have us as a partner into that organisation. So away we went and started to do some planning in regards to the demonstration farm. The Northland growers were thriving, were going really well with their bananas and in all soil types. Really, low fertile soils were producing just as much bananas as the better classed soils, and they were actually inspired by two South African people who had moved to New Zealand permanently, who were former banana and pineapple growers in South Africa. So these guys had all the knowledge, and away they went. One of these characteristics of bananas is that if you get a Cavendish variety, they grow to 4 to 5 metres high and create a real jungle, and if there's, they're really prone to wind, and the wind shreds the leaves and knocks hell out of them. But what they're doing in Northland is they've found 2 metre varieties, which are not susceptible to wind, etc., etc. Now, I don't know if anybody here has, other than myself, has knowledge about how you grow bananas commercially. You don't go into a backyard of somebody who's fighting about their bananas and you're faced with a bloody big clump of bananas with about 400 plants in it, and it's all just mayhem, you know. You've got to isolate each plant so the growth and sustenance that the plant's receiving is limited to the one plant. Now, each plant is perennial, so once the plant produces a bunch, that's the end of it. But the saving grace is that the plant will produce what they call suckers, which is the baby plants, or the pups. They call them pups up in Northland for some reason, I don't know why. But those pups have to be separated once they reach about a metre high, separated from the main plant and transplanted to other areas, because then you'll get a bigger, brighter bunch of bananas from the main plant. A 1 metre plant, or they call them stems up in Northland, will grow to produce a flower from about 18 months onwards, and a bunch will take up to 6 months or more to mature, depending on the temperature and age of the plant. Bunches are between 20 and 30 kilograms in weight, and after harvest, the mother stem, the main stem, is pruned off to shoulder height and left standing as a water source to feed into the clump, because banana plants are made up of 80% water, and they are the largest flowering herb in the world. Getting back to our plans to possibly establish a demonstration farm here, we hope that assistance to maintain the farm will be sought from local horticultural training providers, thus opening up future employment opportunities for the rangatahi. Taipu Kinga's vision for the Tairāwhiti banana industry is aligned with that of the Northland growers, and that's from 2020 onwards have local bananas widely available at selected outlets, especially the farmers markets, provide bananas in schools and commence supply arrangements with supermarket chains. We have contact with Faro Fresh in Auckland. They have a chain of fruit and veggie supermarkets, and their preference is to sell New Zealand produced produce in, as their priority, and we have done some work with them. The latest figures provided from Dole. Of course, you realise that bananas in New Zealand are actually all imported. You have Dole and Chiquita. Now, Dole's revenue for the last financial year was $45 billion, and the revenue from Chiquita was about $30 billion. The latest figures that I've got is that for every dollar spent in the banana industry, as far as the growers are concerned in all the undeveloped countries, is that for every dollar, the grower only gets 18 cents of that dollar. And out of that 18 cents, they pay 6 cents to the people who harvest them for them, or the labourers who actually work on the farms. So you can see that Chiquita and Dole are doing quite nicely, thank you very much. The latest figures for New Zealand imports for bananas is over $221 million. Now I say that import substitution by producing our own local bananas, that makes good economic sense. An independent financial study carried out by the Northland Polytech for the Northland growers estimate that you can grow 1,000 plants per hectare. Conservatively speaking, 10 kilograms of bananas per stem at a minimum price of $2 per kilogram will return over $22,000 per hectare. Of course, it doesn't take into consideration the cost of the plants, because availability of plants will always be an initial problem, but Northland up there, they decided to introduce flying squads of these potential growers. They went flying around the whole of Northland looking for clumps of bananas in backyards and offered the house owners $10 per plant, which the suckers, they just chopped off, put on the back of the ute and took off to their own properties and planted them. So they managed to get 1,000 of these suckers, and that's how they got started. Now, I know around here, driving around, there's a few clumps we can take advantage of. Probably at night with, balaclavas and wake up in the morning, oh, where's my bananas? They're all gone. We'll have to go around to Trevor's place because that's where they are. Yeah. But however, each plant will, on average, supply about 3 to 4 suckers, which will have a multiplier effect on the initial plants. So a small planting of 100 stems will produce 300 to 400 plants in about 12 to 18 months' time. So they all have to be transplanted. The other way of getting plants is by tissue culture methods, and of course that can be expensive because it's very labour intensive, these tissue culture procedures. Linnaeus laboratory here have a tissue culture laboratory, but they tell me they haven't got the staff to man it, so it looks like we're going to have the flying squads. We might have to call on Manu and Pānapa to help us out here. A nursery up at Matapuri Bay, up in the North Auckland, owned by a man called Russell Francham, has over 16 varieties of bananas for sale, and the average price is about $20 per plant. To try and educate the masses, articles have been featured in the Wakatani Beacon, the Opotiki News, the Gisborne Herald and the Wairoa Star to generate interest, and there have been a few registrations of that interest. One inquiry I got from Moiri's Hot Springs, where Dane Madsen is planning to establish a banana farm as a tourist attraction in association with other things that he has in mind there. Other tropical fruits that could be trialled at our demonstration farm, I'm sorry if I have to read this, my memory's shot, include pineapples, already being grown by some of the Northland growers, but they say it takes 9 years to get to full production with the pineapples. And of course, if you go into the supermarkets, New World in Auckland last week, they're selling them for $1.99 from the Philippines, so they'd have to be pretty good pineapples for them to sell in opposition to the Philippine ones. Mangoes, the Northland boys say no, mangoes are not good because they have to be, first of all, grown under full cover. If they're grown outside and it rains while they're flowering, that's the end of your crop. Others, white and black sapote, cherimoya or custard apples, tropical guavas, which the Northland growers say are the best alternative, or in addition to the bananas, and pawpaws. So we intend, Taipu Kinga intend to submit a funding application to the Ministry of Primary Industries, Sustainable Farming Fund, to help establish this demonstration farm with a new round of funding proposed to commence from the 1st of July 2018. Also, bananas are classed as a tree crop and growers are accepted as eligible to join Tree Crops New Zealand. Just as an aside, other crops here in Tairāwhiti that I've come across and worked with include pomegranates. Dean McFarlane out at Tairāwhiti has 375 trees and he sells all his pomegranates direct to Whāora Fresh in Auckland, and very pleased with the quality of the pomegranates. And of course all the jackers, they love these pomegranates because it's in the Bite magazine, you know, and it's all sort of fashionable, you know, to have a pomegranate with your dishes. See? So that's all good. Gene Williams at Browns Road out at Wairingahika, he's got over 1,000 trees and they're all doing well. But really I just take my hat off to Vanessa. You know, Vanessa's run the gauntlet, and I think I'm running the gauntlet at the moment too, but never mind. Kia kaha, Vanessa. All the best to you. So that's my presentation. I just thank you for your attention. I'm sorry I had to read most of it, but I'm getting old, I'm getting crotchety, and I'm stressed out about this, because my wife, Nadi Perot, she says, you make sure you get that welcome right, boy, otherwise you'll get in trouble. The phone lines will be hot, you'll be on Facebook as an idiot. and she said, you go and get a haircut. But thank you for your attention. This is just me, but it's been a privilege to be asked to present this, and I just say that Pānapa and Manu are doing a fantastic job for Tairāwhiti, and long may it continue. Thank you.